I'm gonna call the meeting to order. Welcome everybody here. Any guests, and I think Mr. Thompson's got a guest that's been helping us. He wants to introduce him to us.
Okay. I want to introduce Dr. Moore. We brought him on towards the summer to really help us with our cognitive process. We need some more outside eyes on the whole process. We've had the opportunity to work together in Richmond County. I've known him for quite a while, and actually live around the corner from each other. We were principal at rival schools, so we've been rivals, we've been friends, we've been co-workers, been on different committees together. And so he's done a great job on getting us through this pioneer process, and now he's on to in other capacities, and I'll explain more of what we got him doing in our presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome
here.
Thank you.
And I see we have some students. I think y'all have already introduced yourself to everybody, but you can do it again if you want to.
Y'all come up here to the front, please.
So before they get started, I want them to introduce themselves and kind of give them a highlight of what they've done this semester, some of their travel. One thing, you know something about me, I like to brag. I don't like to brag on myself, but I like to brag on my teachers, my own kids, my wife, and my students. And so, but just take a minute to tell you where you're from and some of your highlights from this semester, and then I need to get up at class.
My name is Elizabeth Biseth. I'm from Edgefield, South Carolina. I'm the FFA president and the student council vice president at JDLH. The school has provided me with so many opportunities. For example, I went to Utah during the semester to attend the Next Gen Environmental and Natural Resources Conference. It was really interesting and I learned a lot. I got to tour a copper mine and a bison farm. And I also traveled to Washington for the Washington Leadership Conference. And that was also really cool to speak with agricultural leaders and tour the monuments and things like that.
Hi, my name is Savannah Griffin. I am a member of the FFA, and I also am field trial president here at the school. I'm very involved with dogs, so we travel places and take the dogs with us. And then I've also been a national convention recently back in October, and we went to a place where they have, it's a fishery place where they grow and cultivate fish and stuff. And then we toured Virginia Tech, and we also went to a dairy cow farm, which was also very nice.
My name's Lainey Patton, and I'm from Anderson. I've been to Marine Fisheries Camp where we learned about different species of fish, and we also got the opportunity to go saltwater fishing. And I've also been to FFA National Convention where we learned different stuff about agriculture and visited all the booths there.
My name is Clara Littleton. I'm from Salem, South Carolina. I've been to Marine Fisheries Camp, Ag Expo down in South Georgia, and I've been to National Convention. At Ag Expo, we walked around and looked at a bunch of different tractors and booths and just learned about a lot of different colleges down there. I mean, this school really offers you a lot of opportunities here.
Thank y'all. Appreciate you coming down.
Thank you.
Proud of y'all. Okay, and this time I'll let Edgar do our invocation.
Let us pray. Good Lord, we humbly gather here in your presence, and we know that you are here with us. We pray that you will guide us in making good decisions for the school and for the students, and we know that you will be giving us guidance that will be in accordance with thy will. All of this we ask in the beautiful and precious name of Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Okay. Roll call. I see most are here. Bagley joined us via the internet, and let's see, and then did you say that
Miss Yvonne will be here in about 20 minutes.
20 minutes. She made a bad turn somewhere. She got a long way to ride, but she'll be here in a while. And then Ms. Hancock, what about her status?
I think she's doing okay. She just could not be here today. I'll let her share her issues with y'all, but I think she's okay. And then Mr. Kessler is from my memory at Farm Bureau
Farm
State
Bureau, yeah,
Conference.
He called in and, I spoke to him, so there's where we stand with our, roll call. And now with the agenda, everybody's had a chance to look at it. Any questions, or can we get a motion on that?
Motion accept.
Second.
Moved and seconded, we, accept the agenda. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. We also have the, in your packet, the, minutes from our September 13th meeting. At this time, if anybody got any questions about anything in the minutes? Do I hear a motion?
Also, if you will state your name when you make a motion, so Ms. Crump-Lukey can learn you all. State your name, and if you second it, state your name.
I make a motion, Owen Smith.
Is there a
Seconds.
Bye.
You remember me.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, that we accept the minutes as written. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion is carried. We will move on now to our president's report. Dr. Cowell.
Good morning. First, I want to introduce Ms. Katisha Crump-Lukey. She is my new admin assistant, and we're so happy to have her. She's a breath of fresh air in the president's office. If you come over there, you'll see it just looks and feels different. She's even brought pound cake, and what was the other cake you brought?
Applesauce.
Where's it at?
Well, one large piece is in my belly, but she's awesome, and we're so glad to have her here. I wanted to give an update about our foundation, and Ms. Stacy might go into a little more detail if she needs, but she also has a new hire who's not with us here today, but we're moving the foundation office across the road. Edgar and Gary were able to go visit that office yesterday, but it's the house right beside the maintenance building over there, across the road near the dairy barn. So it'd be a visible station, office space for her. Folks can just pull right in and drop off a check if they would like without going through security.
Amen.
School report card. I know I sent this, but I do want to congratulate Mr. Greg Thompson on 2 years in a row. And I know it's not just Greg. I know he has a whole team, and I know it's our entire team to make that happen. But it would not happen without his leadership and knowing who to contact, the right persons to contact. Dr. Moore, for example. So I'd like to give him a round of applause. 98 out of 100. 2 years in a row. That's it's no longer a fluke, Mr. Thompson, right?
Pressure's on?
Yeah,
Expectation now, sir.
yes, sir.
So how does that's all the schools in South Carolina we get bumped up against?
Absolutely. You can compare our school at screportcards.com and pull our school up, and then there's another tab, compare our school to your local schools, any school in the state. And you'll see pretty quickly, 98's hard to attain. There's not many that I'm aware of in the 90s at all.
Oh.
70s you consider very good.
Yeah.
I've been on the
70s considered an excellent, actually.
Mhm.
So, and you're gonna hear more about that report card breakdown, in Mr. Thompson and Ms. Glace's presentation. Yes, sir, Bert?
I was gonna say, I did have one question in that, but if we're gonna get to it later, I'll ask it then. Thank you.
Yep, they're gonna do a whole, short presentation about the report card. And also Cognia International Accreditation, we had our, final meeting with them well, it was not in person, it was here on campus, about 3 weeks ago. And I wish we could announce at this meeting that we're 100% internationally accredited, but it's probably gonna be somewhere around December 18th, Mr. Thompson.
I would think so. I think they could be, the 18th of this month, and, hopefully they'll be able to give us a clear answer before we go home for Christmas, during the Christmas break, so it'll be a good Christmas present.
Absolutely.
So that's what we're crossing our fingers for.
National FFA Convention, you heard from a couple of our students. We did earn a gold chapter nationally at the National Convention. We have 2 students right now at the NYFEA conference in New Mexico, and also 2 of our ag teachers out there competing for the ag communications contest, and also on a tour of several different farms in New Mexico. We have several students right now at the Farm Bureau Conference. A couple of them are running for the South Carolina Farm Bureau Youth Ambassador. And if you remember, Farm Bureau chooses 2 young people per year to represent Farm Bureau to go on basically the statewide tour, and 2 of our alumni are the current ambassadors, A.G. Cross and Trey Haddon. So we kind of want to stack the deck and keep our students at the top of the state with Farm Bureau. Speaking of Farm Bureau, when we get to our approval for 2025 meeting dates, I would like to move this board date either to last week or next week, and so that I am able to attend that Farm Bureau conference. They always choose the first weekend of December, so if we can, and I know Craig, a lot of times he's there now, and some of our employees, so. Hurricane Helene, I know I sent y'all several updates. I would be remiss if I didn't thank a ton of people publicly, and I'm scared I'll miss a name, but Scott and his team came up here every day. Tony Bowman, he got the word out. He was featured, his stories were featured on RFD TV twice, Tony?
4 times.
4 times concerning the storm. That was national coverage. Eric and his team, Eric's at a training today as well. Steve Osborne, so many people in the room were here to help with the cleanup. What should have taken, you know, if we didn't have the equipment, we still wouldn't have been able to get into these roads. Several of our parents donated equipment to come up here, mini track hose. DOT, I had DOT on here, but one of the connections that when you all allowed me to go to that training last year, I made a really good connection with South Carolina DOT, and that has paid thousands of dollars in dividends just with connections. And Scott will probably give a little more update on just that one networking connection. They were up here, they sent equipment, fixed our road out here that washed out, and that's led to some free equipment that's coming that Scott and our team's going to pick up later on, but just that one networking that you all sent me to last year. So I appreciate that. It's paid dividends. Want to update you about something negative, but it's a car wreck that was accidental, obviously. Not our fault, but it was a freak accident that one of the debris trucks picking up logs and timber, whatever, on the side of the road toward McCormick. Our PE teacher, Troy Cann, was taking a student, Thomas Clennon, from Chester County to basketball practice at McCormick. He plays basketball. And the truck, I guess, ran off the side of the road, clipped a power pole. The end of the power pole came through the windshield and literally knocked the hat off Troy Cann as he's driving. Both are okay. They're sore. But thank the good Lord, that could have ended drastic. So if you see Coach Cann, give him a pat on the back. Thomas Clinton made a comment, if I'm ever in another wreck, I want to be with Troy Cann, because he was cool, calm, and collected. So
He's not, can he still play basketball, or he didn't get hurt enough to?
Yeah, he's on the basketball team at McCormick High School.
Yeah.
but he's still playing, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, they're both
Minor injuries.
minor injuries, yeah. It's unbelievable. I'll show y'all some photos of the van later. It was one of the agency vans, and I will brag on state transport too. As soon as we send them photos of the van, we need that van for transport. They sent us another one the next day, Scott.
Yes, sir.
It was something pretty quick.
Within 2 hours, they already had me another ride lined up, and I mean, I called them at 4:45, and at 5:45, we were ready to go the next morning to go to Columbia to have us one. Like he says, no, unfortunately, they're used to it. They knew how to handle it, so they were great.
I've ran into a hiccup on the meats laboratory. Since I've came here, it feels like we're jumping hurdles all the time, right? This one is a fairly big hurdle. When we went to our executive budget hearing back in October, one of the questions from Ms. Melanie Barton was insurance coverage on the meats lab. And so I did my due diligence, called everyone I knew at Department of Insurance Reserve Fund, and got a lot of pushback because the Insurance Reserve Fund, they just don't know how to value the risk. They don't know the risk assessment of a meats lab. It's so unique, they just have no clue what to do. So there's got to be a way, and I probably accidentally threw Clemson under the bus. So what does Clemson do? They have a meat slab, and so the lady's like, well, I didn't know that, so she'd probably make us a phone call. There's gotta be a way. I called our friend Patrick Haddon in the House of Representatives, and he's gonna help advocate for us to get that building covered. There's gotta be a way. I know there's a high school in Gainesville, Georgia that just built one that we're trying to go tour, and we've set up 2 dates and both were canceled. Scott's shaking his head. And then there's another one that I'm aware of in Texas that has high school meat slab. So there is a way. We just gotta find a way. So bear with me on that. Yes, sir.
Can our resource over in Georgia and Forsyth, the guy that came and talked to us, help us out with that? As far as getting with his insurance company?
Yes, they can, and.
For guidance?
For guidance, the biggest hiccup she said was basically like, she don't understand how to value the risk of a minor, you know, less than 18 years old. She's like, well, Clemson they're 18 plus, but she don't understand how to put a dollar figure on that, you know. I get it, but they're already insuring us for the sawmill, for tractors, hay balers, all those are dangerous.
Are we self-insured on everything, or?
We're insured through the state
What is-
insurance reserve fund.
So that is self-insured. We don't pay a insurance company outside the insuring.
We don't, but that's probably the way we're gonna have to go with this. Mr. Haddon's gonna make sure that that's, first of all, legal to do as a state agency. Surely it is. I will tell you, our insurance annual payment is around $191,000 out of our budget. And that's for every building here, $1 million tort liability policy. And so she's saying that $1 million is not, in her mind, is not enough coverage for a minor student in that building. So there's gotta be a way we can do a rider policy, something like that. So I'm working on it, y'all, I promise. We're still pushing forward. I mean, our next budget meeting will be, I don't have a date yet, but it'll probably be somewhere mid-February, and we're still pushing.
So the people in Columbia are gonna back us on building it. It's approved?
The General Assembly is backing us. They've already given us the $1 million towards the building. I'm asking for some additional money because they didn't fund it fully last year. So basically that money's already in our checking account, and we can't spend it until we get all the prior approvals. And so the additional funds, we asked for a total of $5 million. They gave us $1 million last year, so we're asking for $4 million this year. But the General Assembly's behind it.
But you won't be able to build it until you have insurance, right?
Correct. But Patrick Haddon, you know, they tell me to keep pushing forward. We'll figure it out.
So the kids here will be working in it as well, cutting meat?
As part of it, as part of their class, yes. And the goal is they will have you know, for those students who may not be college bound, when they leave here with a certificate from here or certification, that they can go back home and make a really good salary with no college debt. And also serve, like we said before, local livestock producers around here. I talk to people all the time, the word's already out, and they cannot wait till it's open because they're bringing their animals. So.
So that would be part of the, education process, not just working, but.
Correct.
That would be part of our education as to what to do and how to do.
Have we taken anybody on a tour of a kill plant?
Yeah.
Myself, Mr. Bland went, Scott Mims, Eric McCall, we rode to mid-Georgia, I wouldn't say South Georgia, Forsyth, Georgia, and toured a new plant, yes. And then we also toured Clemson University's plant. And we've tried to tour this high school plant and have not been successful getting a tour yet in Gainesville.
You let us know when you get a chance to go to see that. Not like university ride.
Absolutely, I will. Yep, Scott, if we get that Gainesville trip, make sure we tell this group. All right, we hosted the retired ag teachers this week. Mr. Bland was one of those. I just wanted to throw this out because we just talked about 2 negative things, so I gotta throw a fun thing out. Collectively, they had 602.5 years of experience in the classroom. That's unbelievable. And one of the gentleman's wife she taught biology for 44 years, and she was mad that we didn't include her, but so 646 years. Donor appreciation event for the foundation. Thank you, Stacy. That was an amazing event. I gotta say, I was worried about the attendance because it was canceled due to the hurricane, but that was an amazing event. Mr. Bland was able to attend. I think Ron was able to attend, anyone of the board members, but great event. Hopefully that becomes annual, and hopefully it's bigger and bigger because of more donors, right? Clemson Ag Ed major, their undergrad major, they came to visit 2 weeks ago. That's the first time that Clemson's came down since we opened the school. And I don't know, why the reasons are. We've tried to get them here, but I'm super excited that they came. Students seem to be engaged. We're trying to recruit some of those Ag Ed folks for student teachers here. We can house them upstairs in the hotel as they do their practice teaching here.
They seem like they were hands off on us when we started back.
I think so, right there at the beginning, but you can't deny the success now.
Yeah.
And so I think folks are catching on. Speaking of that, ABAC down in South Georgia, they're sending their Ag Ed classes up here Monday of this coming week. You're all welcome to come meet those young people if you'd like. And they're actually gonna spend the night here and do a tour for the following day. Quick personal announcement for Tony Ballman. He graduates with his undergrad from USC December the 16th. I will be off campus to attend that with him. I think he deserves a little. That's hard to do going back as an adult, but proud of you, Tony B. Appreciate all you do here. Looking into the future, before our next board meeting, January the 18th, I'll be off campus for the South Carolina Watermelon Growers State Conference. They've asked me to come speak, so I'll be off campus for that. And then January the 24th, the South Carolina Young Farmers and Agribusiness Association, I'll be off campus that Friday of that week, Friday and Saturday of that week for that conference. And then we've had a ton of visitors, but one of the really cool visitors we had recently, it was kind of unexpected, was the NRCS chief from Washington, D.C., Terry Cosby. He came down with the chief of staff. Our chief of staff is a couple of assistant chiefs from D.C. to see the hurricane damage in this area. Super nice guy. Fell in love with the school like everybody does when they first come here. So he wants to recruit every one of our students as employees, according to him. So
They need them. They're very short-handed.
they are. He said they're looking in the next couple of years to hire 7,000 people due to some retirements. Just new positions coming up. So, any specific questions before we move on? I know we got a decent meeting today, decent long meeting today because Mr. Thompson's got a little presentation. But any questions? If not, I'm gonna keep on moving on. All right, Mr. Thompson.
Yes, sir. We submitted our report, and I guess I'm gonna use, majority of our time going over the report card. I think it's very important that, we know, how we got our score and you know the things that we are working on. Although we have a 98, on our report card, there are areas that we are gonna point out that we know we need to work on. The continuous to have good report cards and the continuous improvement of our school. If you know how the school is made up, we do distributive leadership. We try to empower all our teachers, faculty, and staff to be leaders at our school. One of our leaders is Ms. Glace. She's the captain of our data and instruction team. And if you get a chance to sit down and talk with her, she loves data. She's sitting next to the guy that loves data, and they sit down. I have to tell them to go home sometime, because that's all they do is just talk about data. And sometimes I'm ready to go home, and Dr. Moore pulls me in my office, and he's talking more data, which is, it's been great. I think the whole campus now is catching that data fever. But I'm gonna let them go through the report card, and then when they finish, I'm gonna say a few more things, and that will be our report. So I'm gonna turn it over to Ms. Glaze, and we'll go from there.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The teacher in me, I have a PowerPoint presentation, so we'll get that up. I've shared my screen. Hopefully Mr. Bagley can see this as well.
Got it.
Awesome. So, thank you, Mr. Thompson, for that introduction. As he said, I'm the captain of the data and instruction team. I'm also the IT coordinator, and I teach chemistry here. So if you have any questions that pertain to any of those realms, hopefully I can answer those. But as he said, today we want to specifically talk about our report card, and then some other data that we've, especially with Cognia, that we've kind of really dove into, and we want to share with y'all. It's important. So obviously, as Dr. Cowan also said, 98%, which I will say, I've heard now, short presentation and little time presentation. So I get that. I'm going to try, do my best. But 98, that's huge. We're so excited. We are thrilled. I think it is an awesome representation of the hard work, the effort that has been put in. And again, like Dr. Cowan said, not just by the school staff, but everyone, all of our stakeholders here play. We all play a part in this. And so today I want to give you a little more information about how this score is calculated, where it comes from, and some things that we are doing from this data that we've pulled from the report card, but also things that we know we want to improve on. So we're going to celebrate. Like I said, we're excited, but we also know that there's room for growth, even though in that score it doesn't seem like there's much. So I don't want to come across negative anyways, but we are focusing a lot on just improvement. We're all about continuous improvement here, so we want to know what we can learn from this and how we can grow as we move forward. Of course, my touch is not working, so let's see how we can do this. Just going back to our mission and vision statements, the students, that's what we're here for. So that's what we want our focus to be on, is how this data can be used to promote student success. And so just trying to keep the main thing, and focusing on the students. Teaching, all you do is you just figure out how to roll with it. So we're good. So from all of this data, and I'll show you a little bit more about where all of this has really come from, but we've taken lots of data points and put those together, and we've updated our strategic plan. And Dr. Moore has done a beautiful job of creating this strategy map to really show and highlight the areas that we want to focus on. So you have all of our areas of the strategic plan, and then our areas of focus for each of those. And then we have some stars of some areas that we really know that we need some extra intentionality towards. So those things are really going to pay off. We feel like great dividends, so we're really wanting to just really hone in and look at those. So if you can kind of see some of those, again, it's student growth and achievement, provide meaningful targeted professional development, because we know that's how we get our teachers to have improvements in the classroom. Plan and respond to changing campus conditions. Look at the growth in campus, right? It speaks for itself there, but we know that's something we want to continue with. Developing effective communication between home and school. Advancing agricultural education programs in general. And then for general education, equipping students to transition successfully to a college environment, and also doing the same for those that will transition to workforce. And so you'll see all of these pieces and parts. They're going to continue to come back over and over again as we go through this data, because that's what we've used to create this. Oh, there it is. Okay. So where did this come from? Again, it's going to focus on that school report card and all of the sections that make up that school report card, which we're going to go into, and I will briefly try to give you an overview of each of those. Also, through our Cognia review process for that international accreditation, what we saw was, as we dug in those all of the many areas for Cognia, and all of the standards that they have for us to review, we saw this beautiful alignment of how the same things that we were celebrating with our school report card are the same things that we were celebrating with Cognia. The same things that we see for improvement with the report card data are the same places that we had covered that we need some improvement areas in for Cognia. So that alignment was great. So we'll talk a little bit about that data and just how it all comes together. Also, we've done stakeholder surveys And then the Elliott observations are actually observations of the classroom and focusing on the student learning in the classroom and how that again brings it full circle. So just so you know where we're getting this information from. Okay, like I said, excellent rating, 98. We're celebrating, we're excited. That is a huge achievement. And we're thrilled and excited, and I think it's a great showcase for the hard work that so many people have done to make this happen. And so, not that we're taking that lightly, but we also know that how that score is calculated, it can be a little deceptive. And so I love the comment that said, now it's an expectation after 2 years. And I'll say, with our small student numbers, there are areas on the report card that we just don't, the state doesn't publish that data because it's so small. So we're going to talk a lot about that. But I also want to say, just because they don't publish that, we're not standing back and saying, oh, we're not going to worry about that because it doesn't matter. We're looking at that internally. So we're still collecting that same data ourselves, even though the state's not. We're looking at it and we're saying, as we continue to grow, when that data is reported to the public, we want to make sure that we're ready for that. Okay. So here are the areas under academics. So again, the report card's split into 2 sections. The first one's focusing on academics. As you can see, we are not rated for academic achievement, preparing for success, multilingual learners progress. They've changed that. If you're familiar with school, it used to be ESOL, English Speakers of Other Language. Now it is multilingual learners, so I've got to get my vocabulary fixed there. We weren't rated in those areas. But again, I'm still going to talk about the data that would be here if we were rated, because we want to make sure, again, that we're looking at that we're ready as we continue to grow when it's going to be rated one day. But I will say, we were rated under graduation rate, college and career readiness, and that high school student success, which is a fairly new component. And as you can see, those excellent ratings there are why that contributes to that 98 and that excellent overall. We also have the section for school environment. We're going to dive into this school climate because that's, again, the area that was rated for us. But we're not taking lightly those classroom environment and that student safety and that financial aid that's not necessarily rated for us, but we're still, again, we're paying attention to it. We're looking into it, seeing if there's room for improvement in those areas as well. So like I said, academic achievement. This is not rated for us, but where does it come from? Again, the first 2 sections under academics, it still blows my mind. Those numbers are calculated from 2 end-of-course tests. So the students take 1 test in 1 course for English 2 and Algebra 1, and those scores are how this entire section is rated, just from those 2 courses and those end-of-course tests. So whether we agree educational philosophy or not on that, we know that's where it's coming from. Again, our small student numbers, our students who are coming to us that are excelling in their home schools, they're in honors classes, they're on gifted and talented track, they're taking these tests before they get to us. They're taking them in 7th, 8th, 9th grade. So they come to us in 10th grade, they've already had these classes. They've already taken these tests. So the students that we're really seeing in these scores are the students who didn't have those scores coming to us. So we know that going in, that our students who are typically our highest test, best test takers, I guess you would say, our highest achieving students, they're not always incorporated into these numbers going into it. And then on top of that, because we have a small student population, and again, this is 1 course, typically 10th graders, if we're talking about English 2, then you have an even smaller subset. So we do not have enough students taking this test for the state to publish that data. So that's why it's not rated. And it's not that we're not doing it, it's not that we're not participating, it's just that we have such a small number, they do not publish the data for these tests. But again, we do, right? We know what these test scores are. So when we look at our internal review, we're looking comparing to the state, which is really what this report card's doing in general, right? It's every section is just comparing our average to the state average in that area. So we know the state average for the English 2 EOC, and this is a C or higher, so not just passing it, but a C or higher, is 66.4%. Our students were coming in at 71.4%. So we are exceeding the state expectation and the state average in that area. Now, Algebra 1 is a whole different beast in of itself because it's a 9th grade class. And so it's actually set up as a prerequisite before our students can be accepted here. They need to come to us with Algebra 1, so we don't even offer Algebra 1. So again, half of the scores that they use to calculate this entire section, we don't even offer here. So again, that's one of the reasons why on that report card it looks weird when it says not rated there, but that's what it comes down to. I'm trying to move, again, a little quick, but if you have questions, please don't hesitate to stop and ask.
Does the state have that record right there?
Yes, they have it. They just don't report it on the report card, but absolutely. We have to turn all of that data into them for sure.
So if we had a student that wanted to come here that wanted to go to work after coming here instead of going to college,
right,
and he hadn't taken Algebra 1 in the 9th grade, he doesn't get here?
Well, so it's not exactly, so Algebra 1 is a 9th grade class across the state because they have to have 4 math courses to graduate high school. So setup coming in, it's typically 9th is Algebra 1, and then you have Geometry, Algebra 2. So just the flow, students come to us to have a on-time graduation rate. They need that Algebra 1 already before they get here. So they have time to take their 3 other graduation requirements for math. But I will say we have virtual SC that we utilize in those cases if that was an exception we needed to make. So it's not always a hard no, it's just really to set them up for success. They need to come to us with some initial requirements. Okay. Our biology, much the same way. Kind of what you were saying with that thought. Biology 1 is typically a 9th grade class. Most students across the state of South Carolina, they're automatically enrolled in Biology 1 in the 9th grade. We have some students, now we only had 8 students last year that took Biology 1 in our school. And so when you have that low of a number, and they didn't take the Biology 1 class their 9th grade year at their home school, so they're coming to us, they're taking Biology 2 their sophomore year. We have such a small number that again, those percentages, that one student makes a big difference when you only have 8, right? So even compared to the state, which is 47.9%, we were a little lower than state average there, but we know what we need to work on. We're targeting those students who are coming to us taking that Biology 1. We've made changes of moving our EOC courses to spring to really get a little bit more maturity for some of those 10th grade students, to give them a little bit more time where we're not taking them to National Convention or Ag Expo. So we know that we have an area to work on there, and we're trying to really give them that best option and best opportunity for success there. But as you can see with U.S. History and Constitution, these scores are reported on the report card because it's typically an 11th grade course. And so our students typically don't come to us with a U.S. History and Constitution credit, so they're taking it with us here at our school. And because we have those, the more students taking it, you have that higher number of participation. They do actually show this. It's not included in our score because it's a not rated section, but they do publish this data on the score report card. And you can see we are exceeding that state average in that area as well. Graduation rate, 100% graduation rate. I think that's one of the things that we've hung our hats on here for a few years. We really, with a small number of students, you get that intentional one-on-one opportunity to really not only make sure they're on track here, but then make sure we know where they're going and they're prepared for that as they leave here.
Is the district, is that McCormick district?
It's not. It's our school and our district are the same. So they just report the same numbers for both since we serve as our own district. Good question there. At the bottom, again, this is our 4-year cohort graduation rate. And so they really look at making sure those students are set up for success as they're coming to us with those prerequisite requirements, that they're set up to graduate in 4 years. The state really focuses on that. And as you can see, with a 100% graduation rate, we're obviously meeting those expectations as well.
If a
Yes,
student
sir.
comes, if we accept a student and they're here, and they do something that causes them to be taken away from here, do they still go in this, they don't go in this county?
No, sir.
They get
As
rid of
long
them?
as they transfer out of our school and they are enrolled into another school, they do not count against their graduation rate. We have to have that record of where they go, though. That's an important thing. Okay, so we're moving on from that academic section and that preparing for success sections. Again, those come from the EOC scores. And now we're moving into college and career readiness. This is another area that we excel in with college and career readiness. And as you can see, those other two sections, again, were based on really, 4 tests that students take. Now you have another section of college and career readiness that we have an entire list of ways that students can be successful in these categories. So these are rated, this is rated for us, and we really dive into each one of these sections to look at where we're getting points from each one of these, from the career readiness assessment, placement exams, SAT, ACT, dual enrollment, and there's actually even more than that. There's just the ones that are listed on the top. All right, so diving into this just a little bit, they have these general consensus here of college. Is a student college ready? Is a student career ready? And then we'll dive into a little bit more about how they make those distinguishments of how they say, yes, the student's college ready or career ready. And then they track the students that are one or the other, right, are college or career ready. And you see here that 32 out of 34 of our graduating seniors, this is based on that graduation cohort, so that we are far exceeding that state average here, that they're leaving here either ready for college or career. Then they put them together here, that they are both college and career. So again, we are still far exceeding that state average, but we see here that there's a big difference here. So as you said a minute ago, we have students coming to us who have no interest in going to college, that we know that we want to prepare them to go right into the workforce. And so we know that that's, part of what's happening here. So the trend makes sense, but we also know that there's some room for improvement. So how do we want to improve on that? How does the state decide whether a student is college ready or career ready? And it's really based on lots of things, but one of the big things are standardized assessments. So for a student to be considered career ready, one of the things, so here we break, I'm sorry, I missed a slide. So we break it into specifically college ready and specifically career ready. So in order for a student to be considered college ready, it can be a score on the SAT, the ACT. It can be that they're enrolled in a certain number of dual enrollment credits, that they're scoring a C or higher. AP credit, there are different ways that they can be considered college ready. And the same for career ready. That can be their WIN score. It can come from their CTE, or for here it's agriculture, their certifications, and that completer status. So we know that there are lots of ways to kind of check that box for each student. So we want to make sure that we are intentionally looking at every single student and what they can do to reach this designation for themselves. WIN and SAT are the biggest indicators here that give us the most students in those categories. So for WIN, that is the college readiness assessment. You can see our students are knocking it out of the park with WIN. They're doing a great job. That shows that college readiness, and it lines up pretty close with a lot of the agriculture standards and expectations. So they're ready for that assessment. If they take that assessment seriously, then they're doing really well on it. So you can see they show the students that scored a 2, 3, 4, or even a 5. We don't have any 5s this year, or this past year, but hopefully we'll get some more of those 5s coming. But you can see we exceed the state average in all of those areas. Now, SAT is a little bit of a different story. So SAT is one of the things they use for that college readiness indicator. Now, the expectation with the state is that we offer the SAT to all of our students on a school day, and that they take the test. Now, students can opt out if they choose and their parents contact the school. You see here statewide, only 49% of students are taking the SAT. But for our school, 90.3% of our students are taking the SAT. So almost every one of our students are taking the SAT, compared to that state average, not even half of the students in other schools. So when we're looking at this score, for us, and again, this is school and district are the same, just our student population, you see that they're not quite to that state average, right? But we know why, because we're giving that opportunity to all of our students, and really almost every student is taking that test. Even though we know that some of them have already decided they're not going to college, they don't have an interest in going to college, we don't want them, especially their 11th grade year when this is offered, and typically students take the SAT with our school, we don't want them saying, no, I'm not going to take the SAT, and maybe potentially keep themselves from being able to change their mind their senior year, which happens quite a bit.
When my twins went during COVID, it wasn't required. Is it required now?
They've started looking back at the scores now, yes, sir. So, the
Thank God
state,
for COVID.
right, COVID, there you go. So, a lot has changed because of COVID, but the expectation is still there that we offer it, and more colleges are getting back to looking. Not all of them, and I don't know that specifically, but I think it's becoming more of a expectation again. There's another indicator here, just in general, high school student success, and that's really looking at that, going really deeper into that graduation rate. Are your students graduating in 4 years, 5 years? Again, our graduation rate's 100%, so we're 100% here. We're doing great in this area. We're getting all of the points possible here. Now we're switching a little bit more to, this is that second section with climate, and these are from the climate surveys. This is where we send out surveys to parents, teachers, and students, and we get that data back, and the state analyzes that and kind of says, you know, how we're doing, how do students feel, how do parents feel, how do teachers feel on our campus. Now these are only 2 sections from those entire things, and I'll be honest, I picked the 2 lower areas because again, we're focusing on improvement. So we're doing really good in a lot of those climate areas. Officer Osborne goes above and beyond to make our students, our parents, our staff feel safe. We score really high on those safety indicators. Where we're scoring a little bit lower, where we know we need to focus and be a little bit more intentional, it's just that overall perception of climate. And then teacher perceptions of working conditions. But we know we have major construction going on campus, right? We are already doing the work. We're already building, you know, new facilities. All of that's going to go into this feeling of, you know, that every teacher is going to feel prepared for their working conditions. They're going to come in with new, you know, whether it's technology, a new classroom, however that's perceived by that teacher. I feel like we're going to see a huge increase there just from completing the projects we've already started.
Are we at risk of losing any of our teachers?
Our teacher retention has been incredibly high. I think we've every year we've lost three since we've started in 5 years, and I don't think we've lost more than one of those at the same time, right? So I don't feel that way from, you know, that's my opinion.
Mr. Thompson and I can leave the room and y'all ask Lace by herself.
Again, I think that perception is coming from what the teachers know is on the horizon, and almost, I kind of feel like that anticipation, right? Like, oh, you know, we might not be there yet, but look what's coming, and when you compare what's coming to what we have now, I mean, of course you feel like, oh, well, we're not there yet, right? So I think that's part of where that comes from, but that's reported, you know, on our state report card, so I feel like it's important to acknowledge it and to just take a look and say, hey, let's give some more surveys, let's talk to our teachers, let's pull them into some discussions and really dig into and dive into where is that coming from. So we've taken all of these numbers and we're starting to track really trend data here now that we have multiple report cards to compare against. And so again, we want to move toward continuously improving. We want to know where we're going. We want to set goals, realistic goals that are based on these scores. So what you see here is just a little snapshot of really what we're doing with this. How do these scores, how are we using these to look at our strategic plan? How are we using these to guide professional development? Well, we're using this by this balanced scorecard where we've taken the baseline from 21-22, our first year, with the report card data, and we're comparing it to the additional years, and then we are putting targets and goals in for next year. So where do we want to go? And really looking at how we can do that realistically. Now this is just based on a 3% increase, just in general. We want to move we want to move in the right direction in every area, right? But you can see we're paying attention to those numbers. Even if they've only dropped slightly, we want to look and say, okay, well, why did they drop and they didn't go up? Really diving in and making data-informed decisions based on that trend analysis. And so we have this for not only all of the areas on the report card, but we've also started adding the areas across campus. So we've asked in our data room that we have all of the departments come and really do a very similar assessment themselves that the school has on the report card to say, okay, well, what's your data like? What's your goals? What was your plan on campus? Why are you here? What do you want to accomplish? And then how can you start tracking data as well? And so we've seen this huge shift in our data room to where we have departments across campus reporting their goals and their data, and we're getting and starting to have that trend analysis where we can say, okay, now how are you doing on that goal? Report out to us what's happening. So we're going to include that information on this balanced scorecard so that now we can take it from just the school, but now we can start making data-informed decisions across campus. And so again, that continuous improvement. How do we get there? So these data points, we're looking at this when we go and we make changes and we update our strategic plan. We make decisions on those strategic priorities. Those stars that you saw earlier on that map, we really want to focus on those areas for improvement. We want to make sure we're maintaining where we're doing good, that we're not losing sight of that, but really we're digging into where we want to focus on improvement there. And then that aligns directly with our school improvement plan. Okay, and as we guide through, we do those 30-day, 60-day reviews to make sure we're moving in the right direction. We want to make sure that, again, it's aligning, that strategic plan is really taking us and aligning to that school improvement plan. And then how do we put that in action in the school, in the classrooms? Well, you train your teachers and make changes on the instruction. And so then that is aligning directly to our professional learning plan. And our theories of action is really what came from Cognia. Those are those, really, what are we going to do with this? Okay, those areas of we want to maintain these places and parts. What do we need to do every day when we walk in that building to maintain these areas? But then what do we need to do every day, those daily practices, to really make improvements in those areas? What does it need to look like? And so that really came a lot from the analysis, those observations, all of those different points from Cognia, and now how we put this in practice. Well, I'm used to teaching up front on the board. Okay. So again, our areas that we've improved, you're going to hear this over and over. It's coming from that same data that you've already seen. Again, we think that that Cognia review lined perfectly with exactly where we were doing really well on the school report card, and where we know that there's room for improvement. So we know that we've got to maintain that recruitment. We want to continue to grow our numbers. And we want to recruit high quality students that are going to take those EOCs, those scores and those SATs and the WIN and all of those test scores. We want to take that right back into recruitment, sit down with them and say, okay, what are we going to do about it? Communication, just communication across the board. That especially affects those climate surveys. We want to make sure that everybody's on the same page, but also just that everyone's on the same page with the same goals, those same daily practices. Analyzing individual learners' needs, again, keeping the main thing, right? We want to make sure that we're doing what we need to do in the classroom and with our students in the classroom and out of the classroom to meet their needs. Again, how do you change what's going on in the classroom? We want to make sure our professional development is right in line with where we want to see our improvement. Policies and procedures, we need to, again, make those practices and make sure they're documented. And then diversity and equity, making sure that everyone has access to what they need so that we can make sure that we have that improvement across the board. There's continuous monitoring. And that's really what this entire thing's about. How are we doing this? What practices are we putting in place? I mentioned before we have those review times that we see. We've scheduled out when are we going to take a look at each one of these, and then how does it start back over? So we want to make sure that we are just continually coming back to assess each and every section of this. We're monitoring, we're making plans, we're adjusting, and we really want to make sure that we're intentional about coming back and looking at each and every piece of this so that nothing goes and just falls by the wayside. So again, next steps. I've really already hit all of these, but we know, again, professional learning, we're setting benchmark assessments to better prepare those students for those standardized tests, making sure that what we see in the classroom is aligned to those expectations that the state's testing, continuous improvement process, making sure we're continuing to go back. Again, using data to address individual needs. We want to make those data-informed decisions. Goes back to, again, recruitment, communication policies, procedures, and diversity and equity. What questions do you have for me?
We're covered.
Do you have anything to add, Dr. Moore?
I think you did it very well.
I knew I was going to go over, but I'm trying to talk fast.
Great job.
Okay, awesome.
Great job.
Well, if there's anything that you think of or you're looking at this later, reach out. I'm happy to answer anything I can.
Thank you, thank you.
The only question I had was, and this is probably for Officer Osborne, when we look at the unsafe report, it says that we had an incident of threat or physical attack without a weapon. I'm just trying to remember what that was.
An incident or threat without a weapon?
Yeah.
That was, we had to do a lockdown. Actually, we had to do two. There's an elderly gentleman that lives nearby that suffers from dementia. And on two occasions, he left home, and on the first occasion, he was reported heading towards our campus with a hatchet. We didn't know what his intent was. The second one, he was unarmed, it was the same gentleman missing in action from his home nearby. And so we had to do a lockdown of the campus, and we assisted in his search, and actually it was a search and rescue sort of. But he did pose a potential threat, so that was, I'm assuming that was the one that's listed for that.
And then the student related arrest was the one where the individual had the firearm in his truck. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody got any questions about any of the other areas in the packet?
I will update Miss Kinsley Miller, her report. She, on the admission side, when she submitted this.
Before you go, you want them to vote in executive session on the two things to vote on?
They can't vote in executive session. This next on the agenda. We're not finished.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. She's updated those numbers at the top for admissions, 45 applications in progress, 20 applications are complete. So you can make that notation, that change. She is also at Farm Bureau and as well as Dana Martin.
How many students do we have on campus?
81.
81.
81 on campus and 81 alumni. No questions from that. We can go back to approval of 2025 meeting dates.
Okay, yeah, we need to go to the approval of, 2025 meeting dates. And I believe, if I'm hearing right, is this new date what you're requesting change to?
I'm requesting that
Okay.
change, yes.
Yeah, you see we're December 12th instead of the first week. So other than that, you can see those dates up there.
And I know that gets closer to Christmas, but if y'all wanted to move it back, you know, the week before,
Any discussion over that,
Why
the
is
December
it-
meeting?
Why was it moved?
I would like to move it because Farm Bureau State Conference is this weekend every year.
Okay.
And a lot of, like Mr. Kessler, one of our board members is there, and several of our employees.
Okay.
So that would allow me to attend that as well.
So you wanna go to the following week?
The following week or the week before, we
Either way,
propose the
he's
following
fine
week,
either way.
December
Yeah,
12th.
yeah.
Is there any discussion over those 4 dates? If not, do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve with the change.
By Ron,
Ron,
second by Gary. It's been, moved and seconded that we approve these meeting dates. Allow any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
Aye.
These dates are approved.
Next is branch out.
The next on our agenda is the branch house. And I'll let, Dr. Cowan mention anything he wants to mention on the branch house, so.
The only thing I wanna mention is, did everyone get a copy of this? Scott brought some extra copies.
I did not get mine.
You all wanna take a moment?
President Callen, what is it?
This is the discussion of the branch house. Is there a way that Bert can have a PDF of this?
Yes, I can give him one.
We'll email this to you right now, or Scott will.
Okay, all right.
I apologize.
Scott, you got my email address?
Let me check and see.
Scott, if not, forward it to me and I'll forward it to him.
Okay, I'll do that. in a
My
round.
apologies, we didn't send this to you via.
No, you're good. Grab it off the meeting notice.
Yeah.
Well, I can start off by saying, just my opinion about it. It's an older house. You looked at it this morning from outside, it looks in very, very bad shape. In my opinion, we would have to go to the state and ask for significant funds to make that house something that we could actually use. And, you know, probably $1 million plus, maybe $2 million to do that. And whatever we wanted to use it for, I'm not sure it would be the best. With the floor plan of it, it would be very well built for what we would even think about wanting to do with it anyway. And for me up here, this is what leads me on, in my direction of it. Anytime we get significant funds from the state, I want them to be applied towards something the students can use. I don't see that house, I don't see that house doing anything basically for our students. In my opinion, I don't see how we could use it. If it were, even an older house that has some kind of a historical significance to it, then, you know, I may look in that direction. But I think our goal here is to have a school to teach young people in South Carolina. And I wouldn't wanna have, Dr. Cowan go to the state and ask them for additional funds for something like that, when there are many things here we need way better than that. So that's my opinion. I'll open it up to anybody else that's got an opinion about it.
On the alumni side of this, the house is here when I was here back in the 60s. There's no real historical value to us except for it being the oldest building in campus. By saying that is, I think it's a liability now, because if John Doe was to walk in the door, fall through the floor, we'll be responsible for whatever happens. So, it's
What
no
was it
real
used for,
significance.
what was it used for when you were here as a student?
Maintenance house.
Maintenance?
Well, a guy that worked at maintenance lived there, and he lived in the bottom floor, he didn't use the top floor. And so, that's the reason, it's no real, like I said, I like to see, if I had $2 million, I'd say, yeah, fix it, $2 million.
I was hoping a tree would have fallen on it during the storm.
We've been well, you can throw a, like somebody said, you throw a match and it's gone. That bad, you know.
What
but
we
I
do-
Would a historical marker be, something that you'd wanna put in
Yeah.
its place?
Hugh mentioned
To
that
note
last.
that it's.
No, I meant to say this about the, you know, I live in Edgefield, a lot of old historical houses. It's not as easy to get that. It's gotta have something, it's gotta be something there to put a historical marker. They will put up one for John Della House.
Yeah.
But they won't put up one, I don't think they'll put one up for the branch
Yeah,
house.
I think we just, if they could just get a marker, we could get a marker, just stick up this branch house building.
We can definitely do a
We can
marker,
do that
it's like
ourselves.
inside, yeah.
Yeah, we can do that.
If you notice, I don't know if y'all ever noticed, when you come into the campus, that little dip right there in front of it, that's the original road bed.
We do need to address it because that's the first thing our visitors see when they glance to the right when they come in the gate. Not visually good.
I'll make a few comments on record. I love history as much as anyone in this room. I love this school as much as anyone in this room. I feel like that someone has kicked the can down the road for 40 years on that house. Had we been 40 years earlier and able to save it, different conversation.
Yeah.
At this point, I do know that Stacy has reached out and looked at several different grants. The only grants she's found are matching grant that we still don't have the funds for to match the grant. And so I just don't wanna kick the can another 20 years and it just crumble in front of our eyes.
It was stated this morning, a nice order as you walk, as you come in on campus, that's all you see, the first thing you see is the old building, and it is a nice order. I have no problem, I'm sure the alumni has no problem of demolishing it. I would just like to put a sign up saying this was a branch out of 1920, 1923, whatever it was, and let it go.
What do you say, Bert?
Yeah, I mean, you and I talked about this, I guess it was at the last meeting, but again, perception is everything. And when you drive by, you see a beautiful gate that Scott and his team, that we funded and his team built, and then you got that house that just sits up there. If it had a significant value to it where we could have students that were in there every day, I'd say 100% let's do it. However, if it's gonna take $2 million to fix something that we could reinvest into a new building that the students could use every day, that's where our funds should be better spent. I don't wanna have another article in the newspaper saying that we approved $2 million to renovate something that we're not gonna get the benefit out of it. If the view's not worth the climb, it's not worth going up the mountain.
Anybody else have a comment about it? Well, hearing no additional comments, do I hear a motion?
I make a motion, we, let Mr. Callen proceed with the tear down, demolishing, whatever needs to be done to the house.
Ron
Second
Davis.
By Ron Davis.
Seconded
Say
by-
my name.
I'll second that motion.
Second by Bert.
Bert Bagley, yep.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. I did talk with, Craig, and he was in favor of getting rid of it too, so that's, pretty much unanimous, motion carries, and Dr. Calvin, you move forward with that as soon as possible.
All right.
Okay, do we have anything else to vote on?
You have one more vote on, the next vote is the resolution requesting forgiveness from this board for 3 school days missed due to Hurricane Helene between October 1st and October 3rd of 2024. And that's the guidance that we received from the Department of Education that we need this school board to vote on those 3 days forgive.
Okay, if, any discussion?
Well, you know, that was part of act of God. Some people say it's not act of God, but it is act of God. I'm in favor of giving it 3 days.
Any other discussion on that? So I'll need a motion to, carry through with that.
Move that we delete the 3 days from the requirements.
By Edgar Lamb. Is there a second?
Second, Yvonne Eckhart.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded that we forgive those days. If any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed,
Aye.
nay. Those days are forgiven then.
All right. Next is if y'all want to go to executive session.
Okay. About the school calendar.
School calendar,
It's in there, second.
I apologize, that's B, yes. School calendar is next.
Okay, this time you need to,
Thank you.
if you
Mr.
studied the school calendar, that Mr. Thompson is that it?
Mr. Calendar, proposed calendar.
Okay.
Next page after the staff roster.
Does anybody have any discussion after looking at that? Any reason why that wouldn't be acceptable? If the schools looked at it and that's kind of the way they wanna go, I don't see a problem with it, but I'm open for a motion.
Yeah, I don't think
I'll make the
we need
motion
to
for you.
redirect it.
Motion, made to, accept it. Bert,
Yes, sir, that's correct.
okay. Is there a second by
Second.
Egger Lamb? Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of accepting the calendar, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion is carried and accepted.
No.
Any other motions? No. Go ahead.
At this time, I'd like to move that we enter executive session to discuss certain, employee-related matters, measures.
Second motion, Ron Davis.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, we go to executive session. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed,
Aye.
nay.
All right, Mr. Bowman, if he will,
And my apologies for being late, but I got lost. My GPS just sent me.
Oh, no.
I was on 702, that's about 38 miles away
That's
from
late.
here.
You agree with Lake.
Ms. Bond, you were not here earlier, but this is my new assistant, Ms. Katisha.
Nice
She
to
is
meet
awesome.
you.
And also, board member, while we're waiting on Owen, I'll repeat it if he comes back. If y'all need mileage, which some of y'all have requested mileage, make sure Katisha, just shoot her an email with your mileage. Have all y'all done the form with the state before, so you can get?
I did years
I just
ago,
write
but
it off.
I know.
Well, thank you, but if you ever do,
I know.
she will be your point of contact.
I served pro bono.
Yeah, I can't repay the school what the school did for me, so I don't take it away.
Thank you.
Okay, we're now out of executive session where no action was taken, and we'll now move on to any other business.
Excuse me, did you vote?
Yeah, the only other business item that I had was, wanted to update everybody on the Gator Wars competition that we hosted. November the 12th, we were in Simpsonville, South Carolina at the Dobbs Equipment location. And then the 14th, we were down in the lower part of the state at St. Matthews, South Carolina at Blanchard Equipment. So kind of highlight of the event, Russ Abrams brought the team from the governor's school there. We had 6 teams compete in Simpsonville. We had 5 teams compete in St. Matthews. We took the top 2 teams from each region, and those teams will compete at state convention in June of 25. So in a nutshell, we had 5 different rotations that kind of walked the students through ag mech type events, whether it was electrical, hydraulics, mechanics, or small engines that kind of made the rotations. And we kind of gave them also a highlight of career opportunities at John Deere dealerships across the United States and specifically in South Carolina. So I think out of that group, for both nights, we ended up with 5 students that were interested in the John Deere Tech program, which is a program that we host at South Georgia Tech College in Americus, Georgia. And we also have one in Raleigh, North Carolina. So hopefully can turn this into an annual event based off of the South Carolina FFA folks. They're saying that we probably ought to anticipate triple the amount for next year, just because once word gets out about how well it was run, more students and more teachers are going to want to participate. So really good event, and again, we look forward to growing that going forward in the future.
Thank you for doing that, Bert. That's
Appreciate
cool.
it, yeah. Awesome.
And thanks to Tony for putting that clip out there on YouTube, kind of highlighting the governor's school team.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Any more discussion? Hear a motion?
Adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by
Ron Davis.
Ron Davis.
Second.
Second by Edgar Lamb. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no.
Aye.
Appreciate everybody coming. Great meeting.
All right, we've got lunch. Bert,